Back in November of 2022, around the time of Summoner's release, I made a breakthrough in the market. I had heard about all of these players with full level 10 gems on all their characters. When I pondered how, the answer given was they bust or they flip mats on the market. After much searching, I found my holy grail. It would make 50 to 150k plus gold a week around the first third of 2023. This method is typically looked down upon as silly, or for those that I proved the results to, they only do it for a week, then give up. I made a secret Discord channel where we would share our vast weekly sales. We called it the Union. But as weeks passed, less and less posted, and I was the only Union member left. Fast forward to summer of 2024. The Lost Ark market has changed drastically, but this market remains relatively the same. I've kept this gold earner relatively quiet for this long. As more people knowing about it, the smaller the weekly pot of gold there is for me. But I think it's about time I pass on this knowledge, because from my experience, if 2 to 3k see this video, only a small fraction will actually attempt it, and of that small fraction, only a small percentage will actually see its value and stick with it. So follow my journey that got me to this point and find the root cause for why I've been given the name Union Leader Easy on Discord with no option to change. So let's rewind again back to November 2022. Having heard of all these level 10 gem roster giants who either bust or flipped, I had a decision to make, and it was a relatively easy one. I'm average at best in Lost Ark. This is why I began to make all these videos. I want to get better at the game and would share tips I use to try and up my gameplay. But the glaring old man reaction speed and an undiagnosed ADHD symptom meant I wasn't going to be one of the many lobbies looking to bust new players through content. My only chance was to find something to flip. But the thing about flipping is no one wants to tell you their secrets. And to be honest, a majority of people making these vast claims of wealth from the market were just masking RMT or flipping skins that they had bought. Note, the buying skins using gold, then holding to sell for fear of missing out at a later date is a huge gold maker. But I'm more so taking jabs at those using real money to buy than flip for in-game gold, as that really isn't at the same level of impressiveness. The first and most obvious thing was solar honing mats. There are highs and lows in the market weekly that follow a cycle rotation, typically around the static days that we have chaos gates. On these days, there's a large dip in price due to surge in people selling off what they had just got, and then closer to reset, there's a gap in chaos gates midweek. This is when there'll be a surge in price. But based on player count, where we were in between content drops, aka honing times, and the dastardly sales tax, I found this too much like day trading of the stock market and didn't want to deal with this stress. So I moved towards something more simple, utility items that I could craft in my stronghold. I did a cost breakdown for everything, and it seemed that whirlwinds were the best bang for my buck. The only issue is that I was capped at how many I could craft per day, and the profit was only shy of 1k gold a day if they sold and I wasn't undercut, that is. I wasn't going to make good gold income off of this, so I pivoted to something similar. I did another cost breakdown of fusion mats with buying the supplies off the market and crafting based on the daily cost of the supplies. This was better, but was a super saturated area, especially around Braille release, as I would have been months late to this hustle. I was super bummed. Maybe I wasn't meant to make gold on the market, but then I found it. During my brainstorming efforts, I had gone down the line of supplying a demand. Solars are good, but aren't necessary to hone. Utility items are needed, but we get loads of boxes filled with them, so the market is basically just hell mode enjoyers. Fusions are required, but if everyone their next door neighbors is in on this, then the undercutting isn't worth it. So while pondering in my last ditch effort, I realized something. As the player base begins to build out 6 characters and not just their main, with the onset of gatekeeping popularity because of both Clown and Belshazzar being increasingly more difficult for lobbies, having properly built roster to get into lobbies was ideal. And there is one thing on the market that has a high level of visibility when applying to lobbies: gems. A quick scan would show you that each level, when multiplied by 3, would essentially be the baseline price for the next tier of gem. But with a little more studying, there were certain gems that would sell higher than others. Why might this be? Well, to fast the gems it costs silver, but silver is also a huge bottleneck for rosters that are building multiple characters upwards. So based on the fact that 1 million silver costs 10k gold, it is cost effective for individuals to pay a little more for the ideal gem rather than rolling it and getting unlucky. At this point in the game, I found that there was basically 2 hot areas of sale: level 5s and level 7s. Basically, level 5s sold a lot, but people wouldn't typically pay too much extra as the fastening cost for level 5 isn't that high, and the influx of level 5s to the market was large due to it being the main threshold the average player would combine to for when they offloaded chaos and boss rush gems. Cubes now do gems, but remember those painful boss rushes? So level 7s were the market, especially since at this point they were becoming the standard setup to have to get into lobbies. It cost 90,000 silver to do a roll, so because becomes just enough to make folks pay for the meta moves. Now, there's two things I had to figure out: selling volume and price point. In regards to volume, there was plenty of level 7 selling, but reminder, there's classes attached to each move. Because I wasn't looking at the base price, I needed to figure out which class on average would sell the quickest, but also didn't have a large amount of competition. With a larger population of players playing a popular class, there's a higher chance that that class would put a gem on the market. For example, in the current market, Breaker is the most popular class being kitted out right now. It is the meta monster, so it has a lot of people playing and building. 99% of Breaker players aren't listing gems for resale on the market though. So if they combine for say a level 7 gem, they will likely sell the min price that level 7s are currently going for, tanking the potential profit for us resellers. Another similar factor is for classes that really only use a few gems, or really only need a few large gems to function better. The transformation classes like Shadowhunter or one gem focused classes like Blade come to mind. On one hand, rolling for a move that is meta is significantly harder, but there's probably a bunch of other listings already on that move since there's only one move that they are aiming for. That is something I know is irregardless of class. The main gem they needed would always be the cheapest of the meta moves on the market. My goal was to find classes that had both its variations getting played, and of those variations, a significant move pool difference was used. That would allow for two different benefits. One, keeping in mind that there are cooldown and damage gems, and just for example's sake, going in for an average split between them, there is likely less competition on 10 moves for a cooldown gem than there is for 5 moves. The options are just larger. But on that same note, rolling for a move that is meta and not just a dud or a chaos move meant less waste on silver when refaceting. So when there's a larger move pool overall for selling, it's much cheaper. I am spilling the beans on my whole operation, but it would be ridiculous for me to tell which classes are the best for selling on, and also this does change as the meta changes. The next problem I had, as mentioned previously, was price point. If I list too high, it will probably sell eventually, but the longer it sits on the market, the higher the chance someone rolls that gem and undercuts me. On the other hand, if I price too cheap, the lower I value my own silver and time. At the peak of my sales, I would get level 7s for 12 to 16k and sell for 18 to 24k each. A lot of folks would try for the 26 to 30k option, but a vast majority of my sales would be 4 to 6k more than the min price of level 7s, which seems like a nice spot at the time as they would flow out pretty fast. One last factor when pricing is the sales tax. Sales tax is 5% of value sold goes to the ether. This is the same for the deposit, but the deposit can be skewed based on the bid. The deposit is based on the bid price set. That gold is returned after the sale, but whatever the sale price is determines the sales tax. You may want to be smart with your bid and buy now price, as it can tempt folks to bid higher to make sure others don't grab it, or allow for a constant flow of gems. For example, if I buy at 14 and have my buy now price at 20k, I may set the bid price for 18k so that I'm still profiting on sales I may have not made were the buy now price too high. These are all things to consider when listing gems. Now that I had a class market that I had vetted and a price point that worked relatively well, it was time to build. This was the instructions I basically gave every member who joined the union, as they all said they didn't have enough gold at the moment to start rolling multiple gems. Have a goal of gems and don't use your profit from sales until you've achieved said goal. I started with 2 gems, and then it was 5, then it was 15, and then 30, all in the market at the same time. You may have seen that I was profiting 4 to 6k per gem and wondering how I got to 150k plus gold a week. Luckily, I had this Discord channel as reference to my pre-YouTube time, but I sometimes would sell 20 plus gems a day. So even when the market crunched a bit and my profit per gem dipped a bit, the sheer amount sold still accounted for a stupid amount of gold. The real crunch, and why many criticize this as stupid or a waste of time, is the silver cost. At this point, I had to basically be farming chaos, lopangs, and cubes to even function in the game. I joked recently that there was a point in time that I had to do lopangs before we could even start a raid because of repair costs. I had to start adapting ways to save silver. One of those came from the buying process, which is a great segue since I haven't broken that down yet. You can either buy smaller gems or just buy the cheapest level 7. This is one of the areas that people fall off at. Buying a large amount of smaller gems is brain rot and takes a long time, especially back then, but we'll get to that soon. So buying the cheapest level 7 isn't likely the cheapest, but it is instant. If you're interested in max profit though, typically fusing smaller gems nets you more gold. Level 6s are a very slow market, but sometimes there are some cost-effective ones in there that will save you time. Level 5s is the Wild West. It's a spot that a majority of Lost Ark population will fuse up to and offload. This isn't just players though. One of the main reasons gem prices fluctuate is based upon bot bans. Bots make up a lot of the sales on the level 5 market. I would assume the sheer amount of bots running chaos and cubes, then listing for the lowest price, is what drives the market down. If you run tier 1 or 2 cubes in the past month on NA East, you will know what I mean. The sheer upload speed of gems at a certain price point is also pretty obvious of some botting activity. There's also some bots that just watch the market for gems that are listed like 150 plus gold below market value and will resell them immediately. I've done enough buying of level 5 gems to see this all hundreds of times. You may have noticed that gem prices skyrocketed recently. You will also notice that the Lost Ark player count dipped drastically. Less bots, higher gem prices. Bots don't affect my gold or yours if you're following my method, but they do the regular populace who look to offload their own farm gems for best value. So back to level 5s. You will need 9 to make one level 7. This may seem easy, but when you're replenishing 5 to 20 a day, buying level 5s becomes truly brain rot. Just make sure you multiply the buying price by 9 to make sure it's in the relative ballpark of 7's minimum price to make sure it's worth. Besides its gold saving, it does have one other benefit. Like I said, I used to be down bad on silver, so any cost saving was great for me. When fusing upwards, it will give you a free roll. So once again, having a class that has a large move pool spread across 2 specs really helps out in these situations. One other super cost saving time saver is finding a meta gem that is set at min price on the market. Let's say for example's sake, Berserker is for some reason a good class to sell gems on. Likely based on what I've seen, its highest damage move on its most popular spec will likely always get tanked. So in this instance, I would say stay away from damage gems on overdrive. But let's say I came across a Finish Strike gem listed at 12k, which is the lowest price overall for level 7s. If it's the only gem of its kind on the market, I could just buy and resell it on the market for the better listed price that I've been selling at. This would involve no refastening at all and is a huge time saver. I don't typically search these out, but if I stumble across them, I usually yoink them. One last insight I made was that at level 7, cooldowns on average were the most expensive of the gems. This isn't the case across the board, but we will touch on that a bit later. I followed these steps for around 2 months leading into the start of 2023. I was making insane amounts of gold. At this point, people were busting Argos and Vulcan, which were relatively easy, and sometimes I would get an invite if they were missing someone. I was making so much gold that it didn't make sense for me to invest 30 to 60 plus minutes into a bus when I could be making more profit from one gem sale. But the tides of my fortune turned quick. Amazon enacted their bot prevention measures on the market. This made it so you can only list 20 items per day, and there was a cooldown between each purchase on the market. This was my D-Day. In an attempt to quell the bot's onslaught on our servers and maybe take proper action on those obviously getting RMT gold, Amazon kind of neutered our trade market. No, I'm not talking about gems, I'm talking about accessories. The days in which I would list a bunch of so-so accessories from all my characters was gone. The question was, why list this rock that will only net me like 20 gold? Accessories that weren't high quality fell off the market and prices in general went up due to less undercutting. Thus, a horrendous new player experience when looking to gear. In regards to gems, listing only 20 a day actually helped my mind not lose itself with constantly wanting to list more. But now, buying level 5s actually became the worst possible experience. I believe I had to count 10 seconds per each sale, and it became a loony house if you could hear my desk at this point in time. I was making bank still, but this is where people who I had shared union secrets with and were making sales fell off. Too much boredom. By March of 2023, it was basically just myself again. I was Scrooge McDuck rolling around in gold with no one to share it with. Around this time, another class release hit Lost Ark, and a new norm would start affecting my market. Basically, every class release from this point onward would be attached with event gems. I believe at this point it was still level 5 gems, but this would eventually lead to the death of the level 7 market. Another catastrophic event that hit Lost Ark around this time is Brelshaza Part 2. Hard mode Brel was released, and this was basically a nail in the coffin for a lot of players. At this point, burnout, gatekeeping, and bad new player experience were at peak levels here. But this was topped off by the fact that the endgame raid was spread across nearly 6 months, and it was a horrendous experience for casual players due to its length and difficulty. This drop-off of players was the first time I had noticed a drop in my sales. Fast forward a few months to Aeromancer's release in August 2023, and the official nail in the coffin for level 7s hit the game. With Aeromancer's release, new characters built with the event would come stock with level 7 event gems, so the potential market of new characters seeking meta gems had been destroyed. Lots of players were returning at this point due to revamped mods Smilegate made to dailies in the game, plus Aeromancer and Slayer were popular enough for newer players that games seemed to be in a better place. At this point, AGS had lifted a lot of their market restrictions to less obtrusive measures, like 100 items on market per day and a 5-second cooldown between purchases. This was good, buying was easier, but selling had slowed down tremendously. The level 7 market was saturated as 7s weren't selling as regularly as they had been, so 1 to 3 sales a day with a 1 to 2k profit margin was good, but the constant listing of 20 or so level 7s with a lack thereof sales made me have to adapt. We were in the icon era of the game. 7s were required and 9s were nice, but not required. So I condensed 9 of my level 7s into a 9 and tried my hand at that market. With one level 9 in the market, if I was lucky, I may see 1 to 2 sales a week. Profit per sale was like 15k. But there were stretches where level 9s wouldn't sell for long periods. The gem type also drastically affected the price at this level. Cooldown at level 9 and 10 sell for significantly less as you go higher in the level. Typically, a cooldown at level 9, in my experience, would sell for 125k, but for damage, you could potentially see sales at 136k plus at this time, that is. At level 9, refaceting costs jumps to 210k per roll, plus getting a level 9 damage typically does more for characters than a level 9 cooldown. If you see those people constantly asking to trade a level 9 cooldown for your level 9 damage, I imagine they are probably selling gems and are trying to get the better valued one, so please don't help these people. This was great profit, but volume of sales at this point was super low. Then we skip ahead to March 2024. We now have had 2 more class releases with level 7 and 8 event gems packed into the Express Pass. This was now the final nail in the coffin for the level 7 gem market. I basically had to pack up and leave since the volume of sales for level 7s was significantly lower than it had ever been and was just too much to keep up with. But I didn't leave entirely. I now reside entirely in the level 9 area. What has changed, you may ask? Well, with Thamine's release comes a new threshold of gatekeeping that favors those with level 9. It always has, you may say, but you are more likely to get fully rejected now for only having level 7s and 8s than at any time previously in the game. And with that said, I am making a lot of level 9 sales. Not as much as my heyday in early 2023, but still quite a bit now, and I have more on the market. In the level 9 and 10 market, there's a factor that wasn't that obtrusive in the 7 market. That is the sales tax. In level 7s, it's like 600 plus gold, but in level 9s, it's like 6k gold that falls into the ether. You need to factor this in when you're listing your gems, or you'll be losing money if you slip up. Another slip up, potentially missing a 0 when listing. I have on 2 occasions now listed a level 9 at 12,600 gold instead of 126k, and that is truly the worst feeling in Lost Ark, and don't want anyone else to feel that. As I write this script, the gem market is flowing. But note, the market once again fluctuates based on bots. Previous to the giant ban, I was able to sell for 115k and make a 20k profit. But after that ban, 125 to 130k is the threshold of profit and consistent sales at the moment. I can't forecast how the bots' activities will be a month or 6 months from now, but there is one thing I am certain of, and it's the only thing I have told every single union member when joining. Gems are the safest market in Lost Ark. They never lose their true value, unlike other items on the market. I have followed the market for almost 2 years now, and level 7s are always a baseline of 10 to 13k. Level 9s have a slight more difference in their base price, but 95 to 105k is typically where you can find them. This isn't like buying a stock from the market and having it lose its value overnight and going broke. At this point in the game, this is the safest market to jump into and try and hop back out without losing anything but maybe your time. You could try a gem for a week or 2 and maybe not make 1 sale and think this isn't for you. Guess what? You sell at minimum price on the market, you haven't lost any gold. The only downside to the gem market is the silver cost, but there are more sources of silver now than ever before, and I'm constantly sitting between 100 and 125 million, even while pushing characters past 1600 eye level and having 18 in my roster. If you are brand new to the game with 1 or 2 characters, you will likely be silver starved, but if you're sitting quite comfortably on like 25 million silver, I still think trying 1 level 9 or even dabbling in the 7 market could be a nice bump to your weekly gold with little to no time wasted, besides research that is. So try this today and welcome to the Lost Ark Gem Union. This was a much longer video than I had planned, but I wanted to test the storytelling method of my journey with this market paired with the informative nature of shining a light on it for players. I saw a lot of positive feedback on the Breaker video that was in a similar style, so hopefully this wasn't dragged out too much. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. Let me know in the comments if you've had any successes or just any further questions you need answered. Any like is appreciated as it helps tremendously with the YouTube algorithm thinking it's an okay video to share with others. Check out my Breaker video for content in a similar style, or check out my Lost Ark playlist for more guides for newer and returning players, gold earning videos included. I'll see you in the next one.